in the Labour Party and for the job that they are doing. We thank you for our Prime Minister, who is second to none. A Prime Minister who everyone would like to have at this time. And if we are true to ourselves, we know we have a good Prime Minister, we have a good Labour Party, we have a good government. And so, dear Lord, we ask you tonight that we will open our hearts. Those of us who don't understand, let us learn something. Those of us uncertain about issues, let us ask questions and have a good understanding when we go from here. Father, help us to have receptive hearts and help us to have a very good time here tonight. And oh God, again, I ask you to continue to bless the Labour Party, bless our country, and bless our government. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing if you don't mind, the national anthem, and we'll all sing together. She's with us this evening as the General Manager of the National Housing Corporation. And later on this evening, you save the best for last, they say, the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, will join us here at the Molineux Primary School, and he will share with us on the issues of the land for debt swap specifically and land distribution in St. Kitts and Nevis as well. We're going to touch on that a little bit because it's part of the Federation. So at this time, I'd like to invite Judith Rollins to be our first speaker and share what she can with us on the issue of government housing here in St. Kitts.
Good evening, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Earl Aston Martin, all the members of Cabinet who are present, representatives, senior government officials that are here, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a pleasure for me to, on behalf of the National Housing Corporation, spend some time with you speaking on what's going on with our housing program and how we are rolling out housing for 2014-2015 going forward. Wish to acknowledge the presence of the Prime Minister. All right, but before we speak about what's going on presently with housing at National Housing Corporation, it's always good for us to reflect a bit and remember where we're coming from in terms of how we have gotten this far in our progress. Housing and land in St. Kitts, if we look at our history, we have come such a long way. I mean, after sugar lands, that's what St. Kitts was about. We were king of sugar. And the lands that were left for people to live on were just marginal lands. In fact, many of you would have lived on estate lands, on church lands. Where I grew up in Bastille, in Matonite, my father's land was 19 feet by 50 feet, which is about 900 square feet. The lands that are given out now are minimum most 4,000 square feet. So my father's land would fit into that 4-point-something times. But what we had then was considered adequate. It was a 3-bedroom space that holds 6 persons. And we lived what would be considered not the worst of the poor people in Bastille. Now the opportunities that we have afforded people that they can have land, not just marginal land, but prime land, land with view, land with access, land with utilities of electricity, water, roads, in prime areas, accessibility to schools, to other facilities that they need, and raise a family in the comfort of the security that is offered by a proper home, the comfort that is offered in a proper home, and the shelter that is necessary to raise a family well. Now, the National Housing Corporation was formed in 1996, and the mandate of the National Housing Corporation and will remain to raise the standards of housing. It is to alleviate some condition, and it is to make housing available to people who will not have access through regular or conventional institutions. At the National Housing Corporation, we identified people who are at risk, we identify needs in communities, and we set out projects to go in a way to actually bring housing to those people who have those needs. Our work so far, you would always hear NHC has built thousands of houses, starting from 1996 forward. Our latest program, those that are current, include the Housing Solution 500, which started in 2008, which was a mandate to build 500 homes. We're in the process of, we're on the last leg. We have some 40-something homes to finish in that program. Beyond that, we have now launched, since January 2014, the New Habitat Independence 30, which is a program which initially started as 500 homes, but has been upgraded to build 1,000 homes. Within NHC, there are other small programs that you should be aware of. For instance, the HELP program, which is the House Enhancement Loan Program, which is designed to help persons to find an opportunity to actually add a bathroom or kitchen to their homes. And those are the 3 programs that are very active right now with NHC. The facility for the New Habitat Independence 30 is a 2-bedroom house. It consists of 12 by 10 bedrooms, living, dining, kitchen, and laundry accommodation, entry porch, and it's finished with tiling, painting, cupboards, and closets. Now, there have been some improvements on this house within the last 2 to 3 years. You would have noticed before the terrace that was just 3 or 4 feet in the front has now come 5 feet in the front. There was before some houses that had no laundry facility, but now we create a space for you where you can actually put your laundry tub and your washing machine by providing the laundry box and the plumbing that will give you access to this facility. There's also a ceiling storage space in the corridor between the 2 bedrooms that allow you a space in the ceiling to store stuff. We have also done quite a bit of work on working on our contractor selection. We have heard the cry of people who have complained about what's going on in terms of substandard work, and we have worked diligently on making sure that our contractors understand that we are working towards a standard. There are also some things that are coming on stream that people have been asking about. We are not at a stage where we can actually make these things homogeneous throughout the housing, but people who can afford it, if you can actually put in some money at $3,000 or $5,000, you have the option of getting these upgrades. And they include galvanized roof sheeting. They include alternative windows if you don't like Miami shutter windows. If you want to make 1 bedroom bigger and things like that. You come to the table, you speak to us, and once you can provide some upfront funding, you can get a bigger house. Now, the New Habitat Independence 30 house is sold at $125,000. $125,000, and we mortgage that house for you over a period of, on average, 30 years. The payments per month for a house is about $671 per month. The size of the house is also something that has been improving and changing. Say for instance, in 2009, the house that was produced under the HS 500 was a 650 square foot house. By 2012, that house had become a 725 square foot house. And today, as I speak, the house has been pushed 1 wall, give a little bit more terrace, make the bathroom a little wider, and we're now at 759 square feet. and still $125,000 for that house. So the house is growing and improvements are being made because we're hearing what people are interested in, and we understand that people have needs that we have to actually fulfill. Now, many of you would be curious as to how do you get an NHC house? First, before we get there, you have to prepare yourself for home ownership. And one of the first things you have to do to prepare yourself for home ownership is have some savings that will help you getting started in the process. When you come to NHC and you're approved for housing, there's some upfront fees that you need to pay before you can get into the house. They're usually under $3,000, and they involve costs in terms of first-year insurance, the initial electrical and water connection to the house. If a survey had not been done on the land before, you would need to get a survey done, and that is included in the fees as well. And the legal fees for setting up the mortgage document. And those fees normally fall under $3,000. Now, one of the things that I see a lot when people come to NAC is that they have not come to grasp, apart from the desire to own a house, they have not come to grasp with the idea of the responsibility of home ownership. And that's one of the things that you have to prepare yourself for as well. In terms of home ownership involves maintaining a home, repairing a home, and finding ways to improve your home. And that's a responsibility that is passed on to you. Once NAC has made that house available to you, there's a period of time for which you remain responsible, which, like a contractor, is normally a 3-month period. After that, the house is yours. And the things that go wrong and will go wrong, because they are human-made stuff, they would have things that need tweaking here and there. It's a work in progress that you have to work on as well continually. And so you have to be prepared to actually have a budget set aside for monthly or yearly maintenance of your home to keep it at a certain standard, and certainly to have goals in terms of improving your home. For instance, when you get the house, it's normally just the lower kitchen cupboards that are in the house. If you gauge yourself that by December 2015, I would have a budget so I can actually make the upper cupboards and things like that. So it's a work in progress, and you yourself would have to make a commitment towards doing that. Now, the process with NAC begins with application. Anything that you need to get from NAC, whether it be the health program, the HS 500 program, the New Habitat Independence program, it begins with filling out an application form. So when people come to me a lot of times, the first thing I ask is, have you filled out an application form? Once you fill out the application form, if you give us 2 to 3 weeks, you should get a call to do an interview. And if you haven't gotten a call in 2 to 3 weeks, you should call the office. A lot of times, there are people working on making these calls. If you don't answer your phone, chances are your turn would not come back on the road right away. So if you've missed a call, it's in your best interest to call back or to say a certain time have passed and I haven't heard from you. So you're making the call to see if you can get your interview set up. Now, we do probably about a dozen interviews per day. We probably receive, on average, 50-something applications per week. So it takes a lot of manpower to actually keep that engine going. So your participation in helping us would be appreciated. We get a lot of people who come and they're a little irate, not realizing that, people are busy. So you yourself have to make yourself visible to get what needs to be done. So once you have done the interview, your information is entered into a database. And the objective is, we have had people over the years who have said, I've applied to NHC since 2005, I never heard from that, and I come again and I have to do a new application. We have since 2012, beginning of 2013, started a process where we are not going to lose any data. So, one, get yourself in our data so that you remain current in our files. And if you have done interviews that are pre-2012, I would advise you to come in and do new interviews. Okay, once you're in our database, it means we have information on everyone who has made application in, say, Molineux, who have land, they don't have land, they're looking for housing in a particular area, they're looking for help because they have a certain amount of money that can put into a house. All that information is in our database. So what we can do now is access the database and know who in Molineux have applied to NHC and don't have land. And if we're rolling out projects, as we would do shortly in large slopes, in Estridge housing development, in Stone Castle. These are some of the areas that are earmarked for constituency number 7 in terms of housing. We begin to look at who are the people who are eligible for what we are taking on at the time. The other list would be people who actually have land and are applying to NHC for housing. Now, when you have land, there's some things that we have to clarify. One, if you're paying on your land, that balance should be going down so that when we have to add a house to your land, your mortgage would not be extremely high. Just tell you, for instance, I think people have to be diligent in paying on lands so that when you do approach NHC, you don't have a balance that's maybe above $20,000 on your land, so that when we add $125,000 of construction work to $20,000 of land, that you end up with a mortgage over $800, okay? Not that some people can't afford that, but it is advisable if you want your mortgage to be within a range that you can actually be able to manage it, that you should do some work on paying down the balance on your land so that by the time NHC comes through for you, it will not be a strain on your income in terms of the payment, the monthly payments. The other thing is some people, when they got land initially, went to the bank to pay off the balance on the land. If NHC is going to be in a position to build on your land, we will have to have access to the title document. So there's going to have to be some work done as to how do you get that land out of the bank, how do you get that land accessible so NHC could build on it. As well as there's some people who have used their land, they have paid for the land in full, but they've used it as collateral for new loans. You have to be aware of that as well. If you don't have your title document, if you use it as collateral, if you use it to consolidate debt in the bank, then it is not a title that is accessible to NHC when it comes time to build on the land. So there's so many things I want you to be conscious of, because people would say, I have land, I have paid for it, but when it's time to get the title document, there's some tie-up in the to move forward quickly. So please be aware of those things. Now, once your name is in our database and we are in a process that we can make a selection, we can make a selection of people who have been processed. There's a score system that is used in the database, which gives you a score to know whether you have qualified for housing. We look at your credit history. We look at your income. Your credit history shows us if you have if you show diligence, if you have a history of actually paying your bills, that contributes to your score. We look at your income. We look at your debt-to-income ratio, which shows how much money do you have to spend every month in terms of your utilities or child support or things that are a must that you have to do versus how much money would be available to pay a mortgage. And there has to be a good balance there. We normally look at about 45 to 50%. There has to be a good balance there to show that this person can actually afford to pay a mortgage going forward. Because a mortgage is a long-term commitment. I mean, I've said it and people laugh, but it's like a marriage. I mean, some marriages would not last 30 years, and your mortgage would last 30 years. It's a long-term commitment, and about the second or third years, you begin to feel like, but this thing ain't planned to done. You know, so you have to be aware of that, that when you say, yes, I can pay $600 a month or $800 a month, it is not for 1, 2, or 3 months, but it will feel like an eternity. And so you have to know that that is money that I can afford to, I can do without for a very long time. Now, the limitation that we have as NHC is that we have more applications for housing than we can ever possibly serve. And that has to do with where we're coming from. We're coming from a landless people. We're now generational in terms of housing, whereas we have served the generation and the next generation is now ready for housing again. And where people from the first generation have still not been served. So the demand for housing exceeds our ability to provide housing. That is why we have moved from 500 in the new Habitat Independent City to 1,000 in a move to try to satisfy even more people. So sometimes when we have quotas, for instance, if we can afford to build 60 houses in constituency number 7, we'll probably be bombarded with about 300 applications. Now, if of the 300 applications, 200 people qualify, we still only have allocation for 60 houses. How do we serve them? It means that we have to decide which 60 will be priority, leaving, if you do the math, 140 people will have to wait for their next turn. Now, it goes back to the idea what I spoke about NHC keeping records. Our aim is to make sure that the people who have applied to us remain in our files, so that when the next time comes around, they are on our files, and they will be the first ones served because they've been the ones in waiting. So that's where we have. I hope I've touched everything in terms of what's going on at NHC. The new Habitat Independence 30 have rolled out housing so far in Stonefort, constituency number 4, in High Point, which is in Sandy Point, constituency number 5. We are about to launch Green Acres Housing Development, which is 40 lots, which is in Halfway Tree. We have begun Pine Gardens Horizon in constituency number 2, which is a project, a complex that would have 62 units made up of townhouses and duplexes. We have now launched 3 buildings that will be 15 units, and we will continue shortly with the duplexes, which will be some other 18 units. We are now looking at moving into constituency number 7 in Lodge Slopes, in Stone Castle, and in Estridge Housing Development. I want to speak briefly of the program that we launched in January, which is the Land and House Refinancing and Incentive Program. For people who are already clients of NHC, this is a very important program for you, in that in January of 2014, under the guidance of the Cabinet, NHC initiated a program that would help persons who have been struggling in terms of their payments with an opportunity to actually get up to date and stay up to date through a forgiveness program, basically. There are a lot of aspects to it, but if you bear with me, I'll try to outline some of them. And if you need more details, you should really come into NHC and have that conversation to understand how it works. For land, let me speak of land. Previously, the interest rate on land was 10% per annum. We have now reduced that interest rate to 7% per annum. If you got land, for instance, in 2005 from NHC, you would have gotten a letter saying you've been allocated this land, you have 2 years interest-free, after which you would be charged 10% per annum. Now, most people would have made the initial deposit within that period to secure the land, but some people have been less than diligent in making regular payments. Over the period when you started being charged interest in 2007, you would have begun to accumulate interest arrears if you had not been paying regularly. In fact, if you were paying very small amounts, you were still being charged interest on the land. So what has happened now, we found in 2013, quite a few people were carrying high interest arrears, and we needed to find a way to get those people back in line so they could continue the journey to land ownership. And I say all the time, it's very important that you finish the journey to land and house ownership, because there's nothing more important than actually getting the title document, because that is what you're going to pass on to the next generation. That's what you're going to leave in your will. If you don't, you leave the debt in your will. And so it's important to continue the journey to ownership. So we started this process of helping people get back on track by doing forgiveness for outstanding interest arrears. So for the land situation, for the period of 2014, every month that you make a payment on time, first you come into the office to create a new land agreement. The land agreements we had before were open-ended. They didn't tell you how much years you had to pay off your land. We are now making new agreements where we can say, if you come in this month, July 2014, we create a plan for you. You have up to 10 years. If you want less time, you can get less time than that. And so you'll know when your loan agreement will be ended, how much money you should pay per month to get there. If you're someone who could afford $200 a month, or if somebody who can afford $500 a month, you get into an agreement that will help you bring your land loan into regular payments. For every month that you pay on time in that agreement, a portion of the interest arrears that you have accumulated is forgiven. So if you pay all 12 months of 2014 on time, that interest arrears that you've accumulated is divided into 12, and it is chipped away 1/12 at a time. And by December 2014, you should have been interest arrears free and actually current in your payment and on your way to owning your land. If you haven't done that so far, you still have July, August, September, which is 6 months of 2014 that you can be forgiven the interest arrears on your land. A similar program is in place for housing. Firstly, persons who are paying above 6% on their houses, and there are quite a few people. Some people were paying 8%, some people were paying 7%. If you were in the HS 500 program, you were already paying 5%. But say you are paying more than 6% in your mortgage, you have an opportunity for your mortgage payment to be reduced because NHC has reduced interest rates to no more than 6% on any mortgage that we have. So if you haven't come as well, you need to come and see if your interest rate has been reduced, if there's an opportunity for you to lower your monthly payment. And even if you choose to keep your monthly payment where it is, because some people have a salary deduction or a standing order, it means that you're on your way to finishing the loan faster than you were previously. So you can actually come in to see, well, how many years does that chip off my payment, because I am now paying a larger amount than I need to. We also have forgiveness in mortgage payments. People have fallen behind in their mortgage payments. We went through some rough years since the decline in the economy, since 2008, 2009 going forward. People lost their jobs, people, had mean times, and so some things had fallen by the wayside. A lot of people want to get back on track. And so NHC has offered the opportunity for you to get back on track over a 2-year period. So from 2014 to 2015, every time you pay your mortgage on time, you actually chip away at the interest arrears that you had accumulated. It doesn't matter what size it was, okay? If you were in arrears $2,000 and there's some people who would have been in arrears $10,000, doesn't matter what size it was. Once you can make regular payments for 24 months, from 2014 to 2015, that interest arrears is divided over 24 pieces and is chipped away. At the end of 2015, you would have seen I am no longer in NHC delinquency books. So those are the programs that we rolled out, the land and house refinancing and incentive program. It's a lot to swallow, just listening, but you should come into the office and speak with the mortgage department to find out more about what's going on at NHC. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that. There was the General Manager of the National Housing Corporation, Judith Rollins, giving us a lot of information there on the correct way to go about owning a home affordably. And the government of St. Kitts-Nevis has ensured that home ownership is something that everybody can realize, that every single person in this country who would have a desire to own their own home. Let's acknowledge the presence with a warm round of applause of our Prime Minister, Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas. With us this evening as well is the representative for constituency number 7, Dr. Vance Gilbert. We also have with us Minister of Information Nigel Carty this evening, and we have as well Mr. Cedric Liebert. Have to acknowledge their presence. Thank you so much for that. We're going to remind those individuals who are listening to us on Freedom Radio that they can send their text messages, listen to what is being said, and then text us this evening at 763-1719. You can also send emails to talkforprogress@gmail.com. Those are ways that individuals who are not able to make it here to the Joshua Obadiah Williams Primary School can interact with us this evening. Dr. Earl Asim Martin is our next speaker. He is the minister with responsibility for housing, and he's also responsible for energy needs and concerns here. Those are a lot of hefty issues to hold on his shoulders. Everybody wants to know what's going on with their electricity and their bills and all of this. And we're going to see how best he can share some information on us on the plans and strategies the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has for moving these areas forward. Please welcome Dr. Earl Asim Martin.
Good evening, first of all, to recognize the Honorable Minister, Dr. Den. Want to also recognize the Honorable Nigel Cathy, Minister of Information, and also to recognize Labour's representative for constituency number 7, Dr. Vance Gilbert. Labour's representative for constituency number 3, Conress Maynard. And all the other colleagues who are here this evening, I want to recognize them and to say a special good evening to the people of this area of constituency number 7 and the surrounding areas. A special good evening to you. I am asked this evening to speak on electricity and renewable energy, but I must say that it appears as if the whole panel discussion is centered around my ministry, which is housing, public utilities, public works, and energy. And I would want to commend Miss Judith Rollins, recognize her for the excellent job she just did. Can you give her a round of applause, please? And to say that the areas that have been discussed tonight are really areas that have been of great concern to the government and the people of St. Kitts. And the government over the last 18 years, 19 years, we have been working very steadfastly to ensure that these issues are dealt with in an upfront way to improve the quality of life for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And to look specifically at the issue of electricity and renewable energy. This is an area that is of great concern for us and for me as the Minister of Energy. You would recall that almost 10 years ago, we were actually suffering from outages and blackouts. And because of this progressive government, because of the hard work of the people in Skelec, we can say tonight that we have seen a tremendous reduction in the amount of outages in the Federation. And this can be attributed not only to the hard work of the workers of Skelec, but also to the government's investment, capital investment in the St. Kitts Electricity Company. The government has invested almost $40 million over the last 10 years in upgrading the generation and the transmission of electricity in St. Kitts. And I think the government deserves a round of applause for that. An investment of such nature in these very trying economic times is of great significance. And it has definitely assisted us in reducing the amount of outages and the reliability in our transmission and generation of electricity in St. Kitts. We have seen at the same time, our other concern has been the cost of the service, the cost of electricity. And you would appreciate that St. Kitts-Nevis is not a fossil energy producing country. We have to basically rely on our natural resources. For example, wind, solar, waste, and geothermal as a means of moving us in a direction that we'll see in the reduction in the cost of electricity. But we have had some assistance in assisting our customers over the last year and a half. And I want to thank specifically the SIDF that is talked so much about for coming on board and assisting Skelec and the government and the citizens. There's some 16,000 customers that Skelec service. They have been assisting them, which I would outline to you very shortly. We have seen in April of last year the introduction by SIDF, Skelec, and the Ministry of Energy, a program to assist 16,000 customers with their own electricity bill. If you receive an electricity bill now, you will see on it a reduction in the overall cost. And that cost is based on your own usage of electricity. I want to explain briefly how that works. The Skelec has approximately 16,000 customers that they do service. We have customers that use electricity in various range, various groups. We have a group basically from 0 to 200 kilowatts. That group of customers is approximately 9,200 customers. Based on the subsidy from Skelec, Skelec pays for those customers half of their bill and their service charge. That is done by SIDF. And that is a contribution to 9,200 customers that are getting that relief. 9,200 families. We also have a group from 200 to 450 kilowatts per month. That is a group of 3,577 customers. They receive a subsidy of 40 to 50% on their surcharge as a consequence of the subsidy from SIDF. And they deserve also a round of applause. There's another group between 451 to 800 kilowatts. That is 1,578 customers, and they receive a subsidy of 20 to 30% on their fuel surcharge. And the group on the higher group, which burns 800 kilowatts per month, they receive a subsidy of 10% on their fuel surcharge. Basically, what we are seeing here, the more you consume, is the less subsidy you will receive from the SIDF. Therefore, the program is designed to assist customers in basically conserving energy and beginning to change some of their habits in terms of what we will do in conserving our energy as we move forward. That subsidy on a yearly basis amounts to $9 million of subsidy by the SIDF to customers, to 16,000 customers in St. Kitts. And that program started, as I said before, in April of 2013. And it's a program that is expected to go on, was signed for a period of 3 years. So we have already completed 1 year already, so we have 2 more years to go. The reason why that program was signed for 3 years is that we expect that within 3 years, we would have completed and developed a comprehensive renewable energy program for both St. Kitts and Nevis. And the platform that we are thinking of developing, that renewable energy platform, speaks specifically to a platform, our matrix of wind, solar, waste to energy, and geothermal. We have seen some development thus far in the area of wind. We have had some discussions with a company out of North America, North Star, who have already signed a contract with Skelec, contract with the government, a concessionary contract to produce 5 megawatts of wind energy in the area of Bellevue. We have also moved in the area of solar energy, where we have seen recently the construction of a 1 megawatt solar farm at the Robert Llewellyn-Bratcher Airport. That solar farm provides all of the electricity for the airport at this moment. But we wanted to expand that some more. And in a collaboration between Skelec, Ministry of Energy, and SIDF, we were able to purchase solar rooftops for 300 customers as a means of a pilot project. That project is expected to roll out very shortly in the month of August, where we expect that 300 customers in the Federation, in St. Kitts, will be able to have to generate their own energy by way of means of solar energy with roof panels, with solar panels on their roofs. That is a means of assisting those customers in reducing the overall cost of electricity. And we might be able to go a little further. Depends on the amount of electricity they're able to produce by those panels, they'll be able to sell Skelec some of that electricity by means of a feed-in tariff. We have also looked at the possibility of waste to energy. The Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy, we have been discussing of a means in how we are able to move the waste that we have on the island into utilizing it in the means of generating energy. In light of that, we have already purchased a baler that will involve the stacking and the packing of all of our waste at the Connery landfill. Previously, we would have buried it and covered it with dirt. We are now compressing it and packing it for the future development of waste to energy. And that is a program that we are working on, and we hope that we'll be able to come on stream very shortly. The other program that is very critical is the area of geothermal. We have been working with the Nevis Island administration as a means of developing geothermal in both St. Kitts and Nevis. We expect that we will see the construction of a 10 megawatt geothermal plant in St. Kitts and a 10 megawatt geothermal plant also in Nevis. The main part of that supply will be coming from Nevis by means of a transatlantic cable that will supply the amount of 10 megawatts that will be generated here, are supplied to us here in St. Kitts. The reason why geothermal is very important is because geothermal supplies a constant base load of electricity. In other words, if we are saying that we expect 10 megawatts of electricity from geothermal, we'll get 10 megawatts. When it comes to wind and solar and the waste, it depends on the natural environment in which those circumstances exist when that electricity is being generated. One day we might have strong winds, and we might have a reduction in the amount of electricity that is produced by the wind farm. The same thing as it goes to the solar plant with respect to the amount of sunlight we might be able to receive on any particular day. So geothermal definitely will provide us with a constant base load, and that is why we have been working quite feverishly with the Nevis Island administration to make sure that we are able to move geothermal to the area where we'll have that being generated. We have been working with various agencies internationally and agencies on a regional basis to make sure that geothermal comes on stream. We have been working with the U.S. Department of Energy. We have been working also with the OAS, the CARICOM Energy Desk, the OECD Secretariat, and the World Bank. All of these are keenly interested in ensuring that geothermal comes on stream. We're not only looking at geothermal as a means of supplying electricity for just St. Kitts and Nevis. We have also done a study as a means how we can begin to export geothermal, because what we have seen thus far from some of the wells that we have drilled already in Nevis, we do have quite a lot of energy being produced there, and the OAS and the U.S. Department of Energy has been assisting us as a means of when those sites are developed in Nevis as a means of exporting that energy to Puerto Rico. And that is why the U.S. government has been very deeply involved in assisting the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure that geothermal is developed at a fast pace. I want to also say that the SIDF has been also assisting since December of 2012 in paying the custom service charge for Skelec. That has also contributed to the overall reduction in the cost of electricity, which amounts to almost $400,000 on a monthly basis. If you multiply that by 12, it's almost equivalent to $4.8 million. That SIDF contributes also to the overall cost of electricity. And when you add those numbers together, almost $9 million and $4.8 million, you see a contribution of almost $13.8 million that is contributed by the SIDF on an annual basis to assist all of the families in St. Kitts as a means of reducing the overall cost of electricity for the people of St. Kitts. And we want to commend the SIDF because it's often spoken about and is not being recognized for the tremendous contribution that the SIDF is making to the overall economic development of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I said this is a significant contribution, $13 million of contribution from the SIDF to the reduction, the overall reduction in the cost of electricity. Meanwhile, the SIDF is doing that. I want to say to our customers out there that we also have a shared responsibility. We have to make sure that we conserve our own electricity in our homes. We want to make sure that we are able to make sure that we use the electricity wisely, turn off the lights when we are not using it, turn off the air conditions when we are not in the room, and to make sure that the necessary measures that have been introduced by SCELEC are actually adhered to, so we can have an overall reduction in the cost of electricity for our customers. And that is why I'm saying it is a collaborative effort between SCELEC, between the SIDF, and also between the government, and we will also want your support in ensuring that we bring the cost of electricity down for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I think I will bring my own presentation here to a close, but I am sure there will be lots of questions. As I said before, I'm the minister responsible for housing and also responsible for public utilities, and I'm sure anything that the CEO of the National Housing Corporation would not have been able to address tonight, I'm here to address those during the question and answer period. Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Earl Asim Martin, thank you so very much for that. And now I'd just like to remind everyone before we get to our Prime Minister this evening that they can interact with us here this evening at 763-1719. That's where you can send text messages, and if you would like to send us an email with your thoughts and contributions on this evening's discussion, you can do so at talkforprogress@gmail.com. Now, for one of the most outstanding prime ministers anywhere in the Caribbean, a very visionary prime minister. Clearly, he's been able to assemble a team of people who have been able to implement these sorts of strategies and plans to move St. Kitts and Nevis out of what was a very profitable industry, sugar, into the future. And now we're looking at how we can empower the people of St. Kitts and Nevis through what we're discussing here tonight, something as simple but very critical, putting a roof over your head. None of us can exist without that. We need to have that. These are essentials. And so we invite our Prime Minister now, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, to share his views with us on these issues, as well as that of land distribution and the land for debt swap.
Thank you, Ebony, for your kind words of introduction. May I, of course, recognize my Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Earl Asim Martin, who is here with us, and at the head table as well, Ms. Judith Rollins, the CEO of the NHC, and my colleagues who are in the audience, ministers as well as candidates. Let us give them all tremendous applause. And thank you in my own way, and welcome to this Conversation for Progress here in Molineux. I want to speak this evening about land. Land in the context of global economic development, land in the context of our own country's development, land in the context of our history as a proud, progressive people. And I want to begin by reminding us that until 1975, about 10 families only owned about 99% of the land on the island of St. Kitts. And the first thing that one learns in economics, you will remember, is that the factors of production are land, labor, and capital. Land, labor, and capital. I want us also to be reminded that the Right Excellent Sir Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, our country's first premier, he understood this very, very clearly. And so he set out to transform St. Kitts-Nevis from a place of enormous privilege for the few and grinding degradation and poverty for many into a place of real and expanded opportunities for all. He knew that he could never do this, however, with government and therefore his people having zero access, zero control, zero voice, where the ownership, use, and management of our country's land was concerned. Premier Bradshaw then took control of the sugar lands, so that after more than 300 years, these lands could, at long last, be used as the economic assets that they are, to be utilized and managed, to be held and leveraged, leased or sold for years to come, as the circumstances of the moment dictated. But one thing, it was for the benefit of all of the people and for the advancement of our entire country, St. Kitts and Nevis. I emphasize tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the background. But let us now for a moment quickly fast forward to the present. The objective of this Labour administration that I have the opportunity and privilege of leading at this time is to distribute and use the very lands that Premier Bradshaw acquired in order to expand opportunities for us all, regardless of rank, religion, or political party affiliation. It's my government's objective to facilitate upward mobility and enhance life chances for all of us, and to do so responsibly and prudently as well. I emphasize that all nations need investment, whether local or foreign. And the global competition for investment is extremely intense. In order for any country to attract investors, it must have a competitive workforce, plus telecommunications, transportation, air and seaport infrastructure that is second to none. And so between 1995 and the present, my government made massive investments in telecommunications, transportation, air and seaport infrastructure, training, and education. What has been the result? The result has been an improved quality of life for locals. It has been St. Kitts and Nevis having attracted more direct foreign investment than any other Eastern Caribbean nation, a higher rate of economic growth than any CARICOM nation except Guyana, a higher rate of economic growth than many developed nations themselves. And our exporting more manufactured exports to the USA than all other Eastern Caribbean nations combined. You may be asking, as you continue to listen to me, what does this have to do with our nation's land? And I emphasize and respond by saying it has everything to do with land. Because your government funded these massive infrastructural and human resource advancements and enhancements with loans from our national bank. Secured. Those loans being secured by our nation's land. The global crisis of today began since in 2008. And in time, my government had to find a means of spending less on debt service and more on the needs of our country. We therefore negotiated an agreement with National Bank that reduced our country's level of debt, reduced our debt service obligations, increased the funds that are available for agriculture, tourism, education, health, public works, and so on. At the same time, that is transferred ownership of specific lands to National Bank, our own country's bank. And this is how the impressive accomplishments outlined above are connected to our land. How have we used the land that falls within the control of our government, ladies and gentlemen? How have we used this land? From the time of our election back in 1995 until now, my government has took the unprecedented action of allocating some 454 house lots for affordable housing alone. A wise use of the land that Premier Bradshaw so bravely acquired and secured for us all, and a clear manifestation of my government's ongoing vision for our country by distributing that land. From the time of our election in 1995 until now, we have allocated some 1,800 acres of land to our small farmers. Indeed, in our National Physical Development Plan that was launched in 2006, you will be keenly aware of the importance of agriculture to the future vibrancy of our economy. We have allocated some 8,700 acres of additional land for future agricultural purposes. To what use indeed are our lands being put? For more than a year now, you have been traumatized by reports that the land in the Land for Debt Agreement has been given away to foreigners. The truth is that to this very moment, the National Bank, our own nation's bank, remains in complete and total control of those lands. None has been sold. The opposition says that my government should fall because of our Land for Debt Agreement with National Bank. They say that they have far superior ways of reducing our country's debt. Yet, the CCM-led NIA, which is part of the opposition, and which led the call for my government's ouster because of our land for debt agreement, it has now embraced, it has not only, I should say, embraced a land for debt agreement that is identical to our own here in St. Kitts, but it now plans to trade far more land for debt than anyone had ever considered even before now. I wish to remind us that land is a precious commodity. And in our society, it has the power to arouse great passions. The land for debt debate has been an important one, for it has given us all a priceless opportunity to contrast what various figures say about the proper role and uses of our country's land, on the one hand, and what they actually do when they are given the opportunity to decide how to use those same lands. I want to remind us that it was in the 2010 elections, leading up to that we caught Lindsey Grant on tape, on Facebook. He was negotiating how to arrange a bribe in selling our land at significantly reduced prices to a foreigner whom he had not even known. And we are aware, therefore, that trust, integrity, dependability, innovation, and honesty, these have been the hallmarks of my government's dealings with the public, where the management and the use of our nation's lands are concerned. We brought our land for debt agreement to the nation, and we debated it openly in our parliament. The opposition had the votes to defeat the measures there and then, but they did not, because they knew then that we were doing the right thing. The NIA, we think, had a moral obligation to bring their land for debt agreement to the people of Nevis and to have an open debate in their own parliament as well. But there too, they did not. I want to close by emphasizing that we cannot explain the behavior of others. What we do know is that our nation's lands are a valuable and precious resource. Land constitutes an asset that is to be managed and used responsibly, soberly, judiciously, in order to transform lives, in order to expand our people's options, in order to facilitate the forward movement of our proud and progressive nation. This is what we have done for the time that we have been given the opportunity to use and manage our country's land. And this we shall, with God's help and your support, continue so to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for your contribution this evening. And now it is time for us to make the theme of these meetings real conversations for progress. So we have a microphone set up, and we're going to invite members of the audience now with contributions, questions, short comments, to make suggestions they have to offer, to come up and do so. You're more than welcome. And for those who are listening in on Freedom Radio or online through other mediums, we're inviting you to send us your text messages and participate in the conversation. The number is 763-1719, or you can email talkforprogress@gmail.com. And I really just want to say right now that in St. Kitts-Nevis, I do not think a lot of people appreciate the government that they have and the fact that they can come here to a school in Molineux and see their prime minister. There are a lot of people who never see their prime minister, never see the deputy. There are people who are heading corporations. You don't have access to them. You're very fortunate here in St. Kitts, and I'm telling you this coming from where I'm coming from. Okay? So feel free at this time to come up. I'm sure there are things that you must have on your mind, things that you want to ask, things you want to know about. Now's the time to come up and let's have a conversation. Yes? No, the microphone is right there. You don't even have to come so far. We're not even making you walk too far. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody. I only want to ask a question, but the cupboard, I'm going to cupboard which part I live in. I want another bedroom, please.
No, because of people like you, NHC has heard you. And so we heard Ms. Rollins say a bit earlier, they have listened to you and they've tried to make these adjustments. Go right ahead, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Cedric Liebert, former Minister of Housing, and tonight I really want to commend Ms. Rollins, the board at NHC, for the progressive decisions that they've been making. And the reason for saying this, I heard Ms. Rollins saying that those with interests that has been in arrears for many years, that if you are now able to maintain your payments for a period of time, those interests can be wiped off. I want to say that I'm really happy to hear this, especially for the people in this part of the country. And the reason for this is that while as Minister of Housing, I can recall moving around the country when we had the one-bedroom house. I don't know if you all remember it, but the name was a half a hog head house. And the government got some more money to add the other bedroom to that house. And when we moved around to investigate and to make sure that those persons wanted the additional bedroom, we were told, especially in this constituency, that they were told that they should not pay even the monthly payment for those houses at the time. And because of that, as minister, I directed that they could not get an addition to the house unless they made arrangement for payments on those houses. I want to say tonight I am really pleased because it is not of the want of those persons then, but because of somebody who told them they must not pay the mortgage at the time, and therefore they suffered. I want to say, with the support of Mr. Charles Williams, then as part of my Ministry of Housing, we were able to clear that up, and those persons got the additional bedroom. But I'm hoping that they can benefit from this policy that I heard tonight, and I want to commend Ms. Rollins and the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to take the microphone? Dr. Gilbert, go right ahead. Microphone for the Prime Minister.
The first lady who asked the question, she said she has no electricity or cupboards. I thought you said current, right. She has no cupboards at her home, and she wants the additional bedroom to her house. Let me emphasize that NHC, under the urging of the government, launched recently the program, I think you call it HELP program. And I want to point this out because this is important. This new program is going to provide assistance to you. It is going to provide assistance in getting on your additional room as she is requesting. And there are other basic improvements which also will be included in this particular program. I believe that you will hear more about this from the relevant persons at the right time. And so I want Dr. Gilbert in particular to make a note of her specific request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Dr. Gilbert?
Thank you, moderator. And let me say good evening to the head table and to all the persons here. It's a very special good evening. My name is Dr. Vance Gilbert. I am the representative for St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party, number 7. I hope you don't mind me speaking a little bit. I made a few notes that I have a few questions I want to pose to the panel. But first of all, let me commend the government, certainly, and the panel for taking their time out to come over here to our constituency, to Molineux, to dialogue and share with the people, and so people could have a chance to hear from the government and to listen to what is going on and share their views. I want to commend you very much for that, because that is something that we think is outstanding, something that your government has been doing and we want to see continue. I also want to commend the government for the good work it has been doing. Since I came on board with the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party, we have seen a number of things happen in this constituency. I think we know very well the politics of this constituency, where the person that was elected to carry out the mandate of the people have abandoned the people, have abandoned his duties, and chosen to go a different path. But I want to thank the government, the Prime Minister, the Deputy, his cabinet, for holding strain and holding the government and the country together and being faithful and steadfast to the task and to the mandate that we ordered them to do in the last election. I want to say that in this few months we have seen a number of improvement in number 7 to show that the government cares. And even though the representative abandoned the people, the government continued to work hard for the people. We have seen improvement in the roads. We have seen roads being resurfaced. And very shortly, the people in Molineux will have their roads resurfaced. I want to thank Dr. Martin for listening to the call of the people and getting the work done. We have seen Estridge, on Estridge housing development, the construction of some roads down there that look so nice. I mean, you could almost see your face on them. This government has been working really, really hard for the people. And we have seen improvement. I mean, persons have been getting opportunities to get their land. Persons have been getting opportunities. That's right, yes, Persons have been getting opportunities to go off to study. And everything that the government has been given to the other constituencies, people in number 7 have been receiving the same benefits. And I want to commend the government for that, for staying faithful to the people of constituency number 7. However, since I've become the candidate in my going around, there have been a number of issues that I've come across. And while there were those who were sent to represent the people and have abandoned the people, I have recognized that we have issues in constituency number 7 that we have to deal with. And so I want to lay the issues at the feet of the government. I want to ensure that the government understands the needs of the people and the government recognizes that they must respond to the need of the people. One of the greatest issues that we have over here in number 7, and I'm sure island-wide, is the issue of permanent employment. Yes, we thank the government very much for the PEP. The PEP has been doing a tremendous job, and I want to commend all the persons in number 7 who are on the PEP. Let's give them a tremendous round of applause. However, persons are saying that they are ready now for permanent jobs. People want a chance to develop their lives. They want a chance to get one of those nice houses that you spoke about, because they are applying and they are waiting for their chance to get a house. They want a chance to move on their families. They want a chance to be able to go off to study maybe and start their lives. While I was there sitting down and listening to the presentation, something came across my mind. Because in discussions with people in number 7, the people are saying that they want to see a major development in number 7. People of number 7 are saying we are jealous of number 6. You have Kitty Hill and all kind of things happening down there. We want things happening in number 7. People of number 7 are saying that, and that is what we want to see, Mr. Prime Minister. And I am here as a voice piece of the people. And I want to ensure that you start looking, because I already spot out the land that we could put some great development on. We will talk about that. One of the other things, and I want to address this, we come from an area in the country where sometimes the poverty might be a little higher than other areas. And I listened to you and you said that the cost of the house was $125,000 and it will cost $600+ per month. I am telling you that I have some persons in the constituency who are in need of housing and will not be able to afford $600+ a month. That is the reality. We, as a government, you as a government, need to respond to the needs of the people. Some sort of subsidy or some other type of housing program must be looked at so that these persons who are in need of a house, who are in need of assistance, must be helped. I do not want to see anybody in number 7 living in an old shack up there. Some people just can't afford it. And so we need to find a way to help them. One of the other issues that is still bothering me personally as a medical doctor, we go around the constituency and there is still a lot of latrines. We have brought this issue before to the government, and I know the government has put some programs in place. My issue is that I feel sometimes the response of the government is too slow. I want to see the government more timely, more effective to responding to the needs of the people. So people can know that when they have a complaint, the government is working on it in a timely manner. And I want to challenge the government to get things done for the people in a timely manner. You see, what I have recognized is that the Kitts-Nevis Labour Party government has done excellent for this country. But these are changing times. And the demands of people have changed. And so the government must also change to respond to these changing times. You have said, Mr. Prime Minister, that you have invested a lot in education. Now these educated people have come back and they want to start their own businesses. They want to have their own trucking business. They want to have a small business, a small shop. Some want to have a supermarket. Some want to have a gas station in constituency number 7. These are the dreams and the aspirations of those persons we sent off to study. We must find a way to assist them. One of the concerns for the people of constituency number 7 have been the issue with the safe loan, and perhaps you could address that. A number of persons have applied for the small business loan assistance. and are yet to receive any thought of assistance. We need the government to update the people on that and let us know where we are going on that, because as we say, we have persons who are now ready to move off, and the government has within its power to make these things happen. The last thing I want to touch on, because I don't want to take up all the time tonight, is the issue of the electricity, Dr. Martin. We want to thank you and the SIDF for putting this great plan together to assist the persons with the electricity. However, here's the issue. Persons are now paying because their electricity bill is less. A gentleman came to me last week and he was concerned about his bill. And when I looked at his bill, because he saw $2,000+, but his bill for the month was only $38, which is quite good. But he had an arrears of $2,000+. The reality is that while persons are trying to pay their bills and keep current and deal with everything else, the arrears sometimes are frightening and strangling to them. I would like the government to find a way to address that. I don't know what the government can do, but I know that you are a progressive government, you are people with ideas, and you are a very bold government. And I believe that you can find a way to alleviate some of this distress that this issue is causing amongst our people. Not only here in number 7, but I can guarantee you on the whole island as a whole. I will pause here for now while I wait your answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gilbert. Any responses from the head table?
Thank you very much. I want first of all to commend Dr. Gilbert for his outstanding performance thus far as the Labour's candidate and representative in this area. Give Dr. Gilbert a round of applause. As he so ably said, he has been working and ensuring that he improves the quality of life for the people of this constituency. And he did itemize some of the areas in which he has been ensuring that the quality of life do improve for the people of this constituency. And I can say to you that Dr. Gilbert is a person that doesn't give up. He wants to make sure he sees results. And I want to... On the issue, there are a couple of issues that I would want to speak to. First one I want to look to is with respect to the housing situation and with respect to the costs of the house. The government do understand and appreciate your concerns. And that is why the program that the CEO just mentioned a few minutes ago, that we did introduce that program as a means of reducing the overall interest rate on the cost of homes. You would recall that the interest rate was somewhere in the region of 8% to a maximum. But we were able over the last 2 years to get cheap money, as you would want to call it. And because we were able to get that cheap money, we were able to spread that money across the whole platform or the whole portfolio and reduce those interest rates that were actually at 8% and bring them down to 6%. Some people are even actually at 5% interest rates. We are hoping to get some cheaper money still. And once we are able to get that cheaper money, we'll be able still to reduce the overall interest rate and we'll be able to see the reduction in the mortgages for those persons. But I want to take it a little step further. We do understand that there are some persons also who would need social housing, because there are some persons who are out there who are living in certain conditions and would not be able to pay a mortgage. And the NHC or the government, the NHC will have to find a means of providing social housing for these persons. We have already started that process. There are some persons, for example, who are living in a home right now and not paying for it. But at the end, probably when they pass on, they will return that house to NHC. So there are already measures already in place. But we just need to discuss it some more and see how we can amplify on that program as a means of bringing some social housing for some of those persons. Because I do have the opportunity to walk around with you yesterday, and I see some of those conditions, and we discussed those ideas, and we want to make sure, not only in constituency number 7, but throughout the whole island where people are living in those conditions, we are able to eliminate those conditions. You did also address the issue of the latrines, and probably some persons having their bath and their kitchen and so are disconnected from their main property. I must say to you this evening that there's a program that has been initiated by the National Housing Corporation in conjunction with the SIDF to introduce that program, and that program is ongoing. So if there are persons who are in that condition still, they do have the opportunity of accessing that assistance through the National Housing Corporation for that type of assistance, with a bathroom and their toilet facilities are not connected to their main property. The other issue that you did mention about is the issue pertaining to the costs and the electricity with respect to the arrears. As I outlined before, the SIDF has been assisting us in the overall reduction in the cost of electricity. But what I would want to say to you tonight and to say to the gathering here tonight, that no person should be disconnected because of a previous bill with the St. Kitts Electricity Department. Once you had arrears with the St. Kitts Electricity Department, we have said to SCELEC that that bill must be paid over a period of time. What you need to look at presently is your SCELEC bill. So if you have a bill that has some arrears, a 2,000 with the St. Kitts Electricity Department, what you need to look at presently and to ensure that that bill remains current is the one with the St. Kitts Electricity Company. That's the bill we want to look at. I think as we go on to discuss the overall comprehensive program for SCELEC and for the previous arrears, we'll be rolling out something shortly to all the people of St. Kitts. But that is matters that in further the discussions at the moment. But I do appreciate the concern with respect to that particular matter. And I must say to you that SCELEC, the Ministry of Energy, and the government is addressing that particular issue.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Mr. Prime Minister.
Yes, thank you, Ebony. I want to make some responses to Dr. Gilbert, especially in his call for a major development project to come to constituency number 7. Actually, we did as a government over a year ago, after intense negotiations, signed an agreement for the expanded development of the Otley's Plantation Inn Hotel. It seems as though the developers and the investors have not yet completed their preliminary work to advance this particular project. But what this would realize eventually is almost a quadrupling of the room capacity that we presently have at the Otley's Plantation Inn Hotel. It means that you would have had hundreds of people finding employment, opportunities that do not now exist would have been increased and provided. And so we are hoping that the investors and developers alike would finally complete the preliminaries and have this project rolled out. Just after the crisis started, economic and financial crisis started globally, we also, as a government, had brought a major development for another medical school, again in the Otley's area, just, I would say, west, the lands which are west of what is presently Windsor Medical School, sorry. And that particular agreement basically had to be revisited and the project put on hold because of, again, the inability of the investors to raise the necessary capital to pursue that project. The point I want to make is that we are never short of ensuring that appropriate development projects are placed in specific locations around this island. Remember what our policy is. Our policy that there will be development throughout the entire island of St. Kitts, so that no matter where you are in the country, you would never ever be able to tell the difference between country and town. That's our commitment, and that is our policy. And that is why we are seeking to ensure that our development projects are located around the entire island rather than concentrated in the Bastia area and in the Southeast Peninsula area, as was the policy and plan before. The matter of permanent jobs for the PEP workers is a very important matter raised by Dr. Gilbert. Because you see, we continue to emphasize, as we did 1 year ago, well, more than 1 year now, 18 months ago, when this project was first launched, the PEP, People's Employment Program, launched in December of 2012, we indicated that this was going to be a skills acquisition and job training program, and that it was going to continue to run forever. But we warned that we did not want people to remain permanently in this state of seeking to have new skills and also to be subsidized with minimum wage. You cannot continue to feed your family with minimum wage. PEP, therefore, is a temporary arrangement for those who at the moment do not have a permanent job. But PEP itself is permanent. Let me emphasize that. PEP is permanent for those persons who do not have a permanent job. It's a temporary arrangement for you to acquire a skill so that you can become much more marketable. And this is the time when you are now being weaned off because massive developments are taking place. We have just outside St. Paul's Newton Ground, the Hillings Condominium Resort is about to begin. This is going to employ several scores of people. We see the Kittian Hill Resort, at least the Belmont Farm Resort, just opened and will be fully opened, that is the hotel part of it, fully opened in December of this year. This one hotel, and there will be 3 hotels up there, this one hotel alone is expected to employ well over 700 persons. And that is why we are saying that those who are acquiring the skills in construction and the construction trades, you will find permanent jobs in these new construction and development sites. Just on Monday, the cabinet signed again another concession agreement to bring a film industry here in St. Kitts-Nevis. I want to see our young people as movie stars. I want to make sure that our young people with certain skills, our young ladies in cosmetology, the braiders, those who are playing around with the nails and beautifying them, I want to see them preparing. The international stars making movies right here in St. Kitts-Nevis. And that is why I say to you and those who are on the PEP, with time you will move off into permanent jobs that you will love and you will hold as you display your skills that you would have acquired during the PEP stage. We don't make any joke in this government. When we speak solidly. And finally, the SAFE applications, Small Enterprise Assistance Fund. Small Enterprise Assistance Fund. It is to ensure that our people develop the entrepreneurial skills that they have with support of the SIDF. No wonder some people want to kill the SIDF. The Small Enterprise Assistance Fund gives a maximum of $50,000. Listen to this. $50,000 loaned to you at 2% interest rate to start up a new business or expand an existing business that you have. Where else in the world is this happening? We've had a little setback. Why? Because at first we put in must $12 million. Poof, in a matter of short time, it's gone. And so we have to now recapitalize the fund, which is what we are now doing. And so those of you who have applications that have been approved, we are continuing to have monies released from the SIDF accordingly as the approvals come in. Now, a number of you have had approvals for quite a while. We, however, 3 weeks ago in Cabinet, met with the CEO and some of the councillors of the SIDF, and we have agreed that we need to do something much more speedily. Bear with us. It's going to happen very shortly that we will have redistribution of funds as we have recapitalized the fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We have an email that came in through our facility for that, talkforprogress@gmail.com, and I'm going to direct this one to our Energy Minister.
Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Earl Assi Martin, CEO, General Manager, Designer for NHC, Miss Judith Wallins, and the host, Ebony Brandon, and the good constituents of constituency number 7, and all other constituencies represented here this evening, and those within listening reach of my voice. The government is listening, because when I first made my initial speech a few months ago in Limekeel, I said that St. Kitts is supposed to be on his stewardship thus far for constituency number 7. And what is important to note is that you see the type of energy that he came up here to discuss his issues about number 7 with. It shows that we, the newcomers in the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party, are not afraid to say what we want in our constituencies, and we are not afraid that somebody is going to penalize us and kill us because we are saying what we have to say. And that's very important, because some people want to say that we are working with people who don't want to listen. But the government is listening. They are listening. Now I want to make a comment on the issue of land in St. Kitts and Nevis. Back in 1975, one of the greatest political achievements of our history occurred, where we, the people, were able to acquire the sugar lands. Now that afforded us an opportunity today, which we would not have had this not happened. And I want to submit to you that the land that we have acquired in 1975 has now been working for us. There are some people who believe that when you get $10, you should put it under your mattress and save it there. And in 20 years, use it again. We know that the value will be severely less compared to if we had put it in the bank and let a little 3% interest grow on that $10. And it compounds upon itself, and then you end up with $1,000 to acquire an asset. That we were able to say, look, I want to develop my roads, I want to develop my housing, I want to repair after major hurricanes, I want to help my education system, I want to help my agriculture system, and borrowed against that land. So it helped us in one instant. Secondly, after we have come from a state of where we were able to develop ourselves, we are in a position now to swap that land to get rid of the debt that was created. The land has worked for us twice. And now, because National Bank is owned by us, the people, we have another opportunity in which we can use this land to advance ourselves. So that when National Bank decides, let us say, a big university wants to come and take a couple acres of land so that we can employ a couple hundred persons and bring students to our shores. That's another opportunity for us to use the land. When another company comes in, maybe a hotel wants to employ 700 people, it is another opportunity for us to use the same land. And so I want to commend this government for allowing us to use our land once, twice, and 3 times. The same land, because it can't go nowhere. And so it is brilliant that 1, we had our land to help us develop, 2, to get rid of our debt, and 3, available for more development. And so I want to commend the government and the Prime Minister for the wonderful foresight with respect to our land. I have one question for the CEO of NHC. I would like you to give some insight about the options for persons who bring their own financing. For instance, they may have some land, they might not necessarily want an affordable home, and they can get financing at a bank. What services NHC offer with regards to those type of persons? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Comrades, for that question, because we do have a program that we do, Building Assistance, that allows people to bring their own financing, and NHC will build for you. NHC becomes your contractor as well as your source of duty-free construction. It means that NHC can quote on whatever. If you bring a plan or if we provide you with a floor plan, we can quote on it at a lower price than it would be than the market rate, 1. 2, the bank has much confidence in knowing that NHC can deliver on the cost that they have quoted. Sometimes the bank is a little iffy if this person can actually build this house for $250,000, if the money is going to disappear, if this is a serious project. But I think this stamp of approval of NHC makes the project credible as well. And then the other thing is you get more house. Well, I said this before, but you get more house for your money because.
And so, until now, but the thing I used to tell people is that it was a tractor road. So I'll find excuses. Okay, it's a tractor road, so I mean, the road will mash up anyway. So I guess when they give out the road and the land on the other side, we'll get a good road. I've been there, like I said, 14 years. I have fallen on that road, going to thing in my little heels. I've fallen a couple of times, damaged my hand. One time I felt I couldn't get up with some contractors were there and they had to come and pick me up. I couldn't move because the roads get very, very bad when it rains. And so I am there and I hear about his service and I'm glad Dr. Martin is here too, so that, I mean, I would really like to know what they're going to do with that road. If you have a new project, a new project called Park View, where somebody called about no lights in Park View, but there's no house in Park, that area. So I want to know whether they're talking about above me, Boria Extension. Because we on this side, Boria Extension, and the other side is Park View. And we had some problem there with light. Just the other night we were inside and we heard an explosion. I thought it was a bullet, but I didn't hear any more. So I said, okay. Then somebody called and asked me if I had light. I had, but just above me there were no lights. I did keep maybe. So I probably think maybe that's where they call him Parkview because there are no houses really in Parkview. We're on the other side, in Bowie Extension, and that's the road there that we really would need something done to it. I can't break my hand again. I've fallen a couple of times on the road, hustling to go to work to catch the bus. I watching the bus and I going down, and I drop in a hole or something, couple of times. And the minister before knew that. But yet we wouldn't get any votes. I don't know. Maybe he thought I was a Pam or something.
The people who were speaking about paying extra money on their mortgages. What you must understand is, like the officer said, at the beginning of your mortgage, the interest is what you pay back first. But what you can do is have a parallel account somewhere else, whether you buy treasury bills or you could have fixed deposits that run for 2 years and you could renew every 2 years, because one never knows what the future holds. And this is good to have that money to in a particular account that you can have access to. If you pay more money to your mortgage, trying to run down the interest, you'll never get that back until the end of the mortgage or if you sell that property. So it's best to have a parallel account that you could put that money there, that you could draw on it at any time. Okay?
Go right ahead, please.
The question about the paving of roads, the development, the infrastructure development throughout the various communities. So all those areas that haven't been touched of yet, I can assure you tonight that the government is working to make sure that the infrastructure with respect to roads is put in these specific areas.
Very much. Go ahead, please, ma'am.
Good night to everyone. Mr. Prime Minister, this is direct, but there is no way to keep these meetings. You either have to just go on the pasture, and if rain come, run up under the area there where they have the cricket and etc. We don't have a community center here in the village where we can have meetings with the young people, form groups, etc. So could you please consider us and get us a community center where we can keep the young minds occupied so they would not be able to idle and get into idle hands and do wrong things. We really need a community center. And I think if we get that, that will be a means of helping us to have meetings with the young ones, teach them certain things. But a lot of times, even if we want the schoolroom, we can't get it. You know? We don't get the school. It's always a problem. So that is why I'm asking you, please, could you identify some land, please, and just give us a community center. And I think we'll be on our way there. Thank you very much, sir.
Go ahead, please, sir.
Good evening. I want to commend the organizers for this wonderful program put together. I am from number 3, West Bastia, but I learned a lot of my early politics in number 7. And so number 7 means a lot to me. And so I want to sound a warning to the folks in number 7. Don't play with number 7. Straight with Labour. Vance Gilbert is the candidate. Make no mistake. I want to use this opportunity to say to Timothy Harris, bye-bye, goodbye. You dance in your last cast as the representative, and our new representative in number 7 is Vance Gilbert. Make no mistake, just like number 3, we're not forming the fool. Hold on to Labour. Hold on to number 3. Hold on to number 7. All 8 in St. Kitts.
Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister?
Of course. I think Terry has said it very loudly and clearly. There's no need for me to even repeat. The message has been given. Sounding has gone out. I wanted to respond, though, to the request made by one of our villagers here in Molineux asking for a community center. I was in Phillips's last week, Thursday, and Phillips's has a community center. Although they told me it is being used by the church or for a church. But I'm sure those internal things will be worked out. I am assuming that your request is the request of the majority of the residents in Molineux. If that is so, then it has to be delivered. And so I give a commitment right here and now to the people of Molineux that you shall have a community center provided by the St. Kitts-Nevis government. And in appropriately short order, the groundbreaking ceremony for this facility will in fact involve Dr. Vance Gilbert. And I am certain that when it is being opened, he will be the representative. This government delivers what the people want and request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to add anything? We have a few more minutes remaining, and we want to make the best use of it. Go right ahead. If there's anybody else, please don't wait for the next person to sit. You can just queue right up and come in. Go right ahead, please.
Good night, everyone. Well, this question is for the Prime Minister and the Vance Gilbert. Well, I see you for the first time yesterday, and I have a word with you. I say a lot of young people in Molineux, I feel a lot of them jam up with their family and so. And a lot of them like for have a own house of their own. Even down to myself, because I really from here, but I live here numbers of years. And I apply for get a house, so I have a talk with him, so he said he's going to look into it. So I just like for you watch over in the aspect there for the young people. A lot of them might afraid for talk, but you have to say what in your mind, and if you don't say these things, you would never know. You know, this is short and simple.
Very much. Good night to everyone. My name is Norma Libert. I am appreciate what's going on in Constituency 7. And still more things here to go on. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, so we're at 10 minutes before 11 now, and yeah, time flies when you're having fun, eh? Time flies when you're having fun. Like I did last week, I would just really like to give everyone at the head table an opportunity to add anything to you in parting that they might like to. Okay. So we've now come to the end. We've come to the end of our meeting this evening. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being a part of these conversations for progress. They're going to continue, so stay tuned to Freedom, to ZIZ, our YouTube channel online, as well as other mediums, and you will hear the dates announced for upcoming meetings. We invite everybody to turn out, and like we had contributions and support from other areas across St. Kitts this evening, we invite you, when the next meeting is called, to go out and offer similar support on these various issues which come up. Everybody, please get home very safely, and until we meet again, take care.